Hello, and welcome to Preparing to Survive and Thrive Homesteading channel with Charlie B. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm sure you know I have solar panels. I talk about them in different videos and different things like that. We did a grid down simulation back in January. To be exact, January the 12th, 2023 to January the 15th, 2023. So I want to kind of go into my solar array and what the solar power system is that I have, and kind of explain it a little bit before I actually go into how I felt and some other video clips that I would like to show you throughout the video and kind of explain things how we did in January and survived. Now, our solar panels is a ground mount, and this is the picture of them. So as you can see, the solar panels are a ground mount. There's 54 of them. Now, how the solar panels are wired. Now, this is kind of over my head on electronics, but it was explained to me, and I hope I am going to explain it right. The solar panels are actually wired into the batteries and the inverters. Now I'll show you a picture of the inverters. And here is the picture of the battery box. I didn't pull off the covers, but if you're really interested, you can go to Generac, and they have lots and lots of information about it. So here's a picture of the batteries. Well, the sun comes into the inverters, and then from the inverters, it travels into the house because the inverters change the DC current into AC. And it also sends any excess energy out to the electrical grid or the power company. Now, the sun also, when it comes into it, goes into the batteries. Okay, so I showed you the two pictures of the inverters and the batteries and the solar panels, all three pictures. So now at night, when we are actually on the batteries, if there's a storm or something like that and we're not getting enough sun, the batteries will start discharging. But the batteries go back out through into the inverter, and the inverter changes the DC current from the batteries into the breaker box. Okay, and then it runs the house back on AC current. In all honesty, it'd be better if the house was just wired for DC current and save lots of steps and probably money, but that's not how houses are wired. So, but that's pretty much the gist of my power system. Now, we do some little tricks here. We also did another grid down situation back in 2022 again, but it was in March. And it ran perfectly, and I didn't even have to use the generator. But getting to the generator, this time, because it was in January, we do not get enough sun to power our batteries sometimes, which will get me into the generator. So we have the generator hooked up into our main breaker box, so we can actually feed the current in through the batteries to charge the batteries and also to supply energy to our house. Now, this scenario was not an apocalyptic situation. It was like, you know, there was a bad storm. It took electric out, or, you know, somebody slid off the road and hit into a pole, which is absolutely horrible when that happens. But that has actually happened here before. But, you know, we figured it would be a 2 or 3 day outage. And so this is what we experienced while we were doing this. And I will show you some clips. We started off on January 12th about 8 o'clock in the evening. Okay, that day was rainy and gloomy, and the wind was blowing. The batteries did not fill up. It just ran the house, and so did the little bit of sun we got. And so there was pretty much no battery life. They were down to 15. That day I had done the laundry, I had run the dishwasher, the freeze dryers were running, I pulled them out. So about 8 o'clock, my husband got home and he pulled the breaker. Well, at that point he pulled the breaker, power went out. Okay, so the battery did kick on a little bit, but he started the generator and we had the generator going in order for us to have lights, so I could run around the house and change out different light bulbs so they have little battery backups. And here's a clip of me explaining these little lights. Hold on. So with the grid down situation, none of our ceiling fans are working, so it will be a good day to clean them. Today is Friday. It has not been sunny at all. And in order to get some light in the kitchen, because I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I didn't have any light in the kitchen because the ceiling fans aren't working, we put a lamp on top of a chair to give me my ceiling light. Now, don't look at the messy kitchen because I have another project in the making, and I had to clean out a cabinet too, actually, in order to be able to do this other project, which you'll get to see a video on that eventually too. So that time at night, I was actually cooking dinner, and we ran the generator, and our generator is pretty much gas and propane, but we just ran it strictly on gas at this point. We ran it for about 2.5 hours, from 8 o'clock till about 10:30, till we charged it 100%. And so we still had power in the kitchen once the generator was kicked on, but once we turned it off, most of our kitchen is wired, and so is my daughter's bedroom upstairs. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let me explain how the kitchen is wired. With this grid down situation, we have our solar panels wired, our kitchen, except for the ceiling lights and the microwave, and the plug that the microwave in is hot. So we have electricity throughout our kitchen. We could use the toaster, we can use the crock pot, we can use anything we want to do. The light that you saw on is actually hot, but what I have in it is one of these light bulbs that you have to charge it, but it comes on and you can literally carry this around. As you can see, it's on. I'm going to turn it off to kill the glare. But because the kitchen is hot, I've been taking the bathroom lights and the lights that's in other lamps that are not hot, and I've been bringing them down to the kitchen and charging them again. So tonight I will have light throughout my house, and I don't have to worry about carrying around a bulb. I can just plug it into another lamp. I also have some of these that have solar panels on them, and tomorrow I'll take those out and charge them in the sun because it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow. So that lamp you saw just a minute ago in the clip, think outside the box whenever you have to create something, and may not be the ideal situation, but it's working quite nicely in the house, especially at night. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, it was still dark out when I got up to feed the cats. See you in a minute. So we finished up dinner. We actually ate dinner. It was kind of nice. It was quiet. Just the hum of the generator, if you want to believe it was quiet, but yeah. So, but yeah, we ate dinner with, the generator running, filling up the batteries. Everything was really good and nice. And we went to go to bed and realized that pretty much nothing in our upstairs works except for my daughter's bedroom. So we started running extension cords. Thank God the generator was still running at that point, and so we could have some lighting upstairs, and we took those light bulbs that we used downstairs also and put in there. And we went to bed, and yeah, I didn't get much sleep. It was kind of nerve-wracking. Even though we pulled the breaker and we knew it was just a grid down situation and things were good, there wasn't anything going on, we still, at that point, was strictly on battery power. And it was going to be cold that night. Very, very cold. I think it was supposed to get down into like the 30s that night. I didn't write it down here, so I should have, but I didn't. Oh, yes, I did. Thursday, it was 45 degrees when the power went out, and it was supposed to get down to as low as 39. Okay, so we were, scared as the battery's going to run out. We're actually using a new stove. We don't know, but the batteries did last all night long. So I get up Friday morning and we're still good on batteries. And Eric was off work that day because we actually planned this. It was 39 degrees and it was very cold. So Friday was going to be a high of 39 all day long and a low of 28 at night. The wind was blowing. It was absolutely howling. The wind chill had brought down the temperature to about a 9-degree wind chill factor. And so our stove was running, and yeah, it was very cloudy outside. It didn't fill the batteries. I did have to run the dishwasher. So Friday when I got up, it was about 7 o'clock, and because we had charged the batteries at 10 o'clock, they were still at 65 degrees, or 65% full. And here's a picture of what the little app looks like that shows you how much battery power we had. Hang on. So get up Friday and fed the cats. I had the tea kettles already on the pellet stove on the corner, so the water was already getting hot because I do that at night to just add a little bit of humidity to the house. Well, then instead of using the electric coffee pot, I went ahead and used my percolator. I stuck it on the gas stove to just get it going, percolating, and I was getting the pellet stove, wood stove, up and going to make it really much warmer. And then I took the percolator and set it on the pellet stove to keep it going and to keep it warm until we decided to drink some coffee. So that was a day where we were just, working inside, outside, doing things like that. That was also when I set up the light in the kitchen so I could show you, so I could actually have light early in the morning and not just be running around on a few little bit of lights and a flashlight that I was using. So we were good and everything was going really good. Okay, so we ended up not really trusting the batteries that night on Friday. So we charged the batteries up, started about 5:30, and the batteries at that point were down to 43.4%. So we charged them up until about 7:16 that night. We watched some TV, kind of chilled, and got the batteries back up to 99.2%. So around 7:16, I think it was. So we ran the generator for about an hour and 45 minutes. So we did some other things that night. Eating dinner by candlelight.
There you go.
And Saturday came up, and Saturday was a low of 31. Wind chill was dropped it down to about 12 degrees, and it was also a low of 25. So when I got up Saturday morning, yeah, the temperature was a whole 25 degrees. It wasn't fun, and it was mostly cloudy and very, very windy. At that point, we were right on the edge of losing power. And it was about 7 o'clock in the morning again. My husband went down, started the generator, and got our batteries up and going to about 52%. At that point, we were getting some sun. And we didn't have much going because we were doing everything on the wood cook stove. And so we ended up unplugging everything we possibly could, and we just went to the batteries at that point, probably about, I think we ran the generator for an hour and a half that day. So by the time the batteries got up to 52%, the sun had taken over, and we were pretty much running off of what we were getting from the sun, and there we went. So we also found out that night, because it was so cold, Friday night, the batteries had been drained by my daughter's electric heater that had come on during the night. We thought we had unplugged it, but it wasn't. So I made sure it was turned off and for it to not come back on. Okay, so if the electric heater hadn't been running, we probably would have not pretty much drained our batteries and been on the verge of losing power on Saturday morning. So I did go ahead during when we turned on the generator. I turned on the other pellet stove to just kind of take the chill off the house. And so I had 2 stoves running. And like I said, when the solar took over, we turned off the pellet stove and we just went from there. Of course, made the coffee again, tea the same way I'd made before. So there was very little sunshine, but we had plans to go out to dinner, but the batteries had started being used about 4 o'clock that day. Well, after dinner, we got home about 10:30. The batteries were still at 60%, but we decided to take fate into our own hand and not charge the batteries. And yes, we were taking our chances. So Sunday morning when I woke up, it was about 24 degrees outside. And yeah, we got up and it was very, very cold. The batteries were at 24%, 24.8%. And made the coffee and the tea the same way as I did. We did turn on the other pellet stove, but today was different. Today the sun was shining bright. It was beautiful out. And we just kind of started the other pellet stove. The sun started providing power around 8 o'clock in the morning, which was great. And the sun was totally powering the house by 8:40. So, and it was adding back to the batteries. And the house was only using about 0.50, which is a half a kilowatt hour. And the sun at that point was providing 0.8 kilowatt hours. So a little over 3/4 of the power watts. However, whenever the refrigerator or the freezer would kick on, it would start hitting the batteries, but that's okay because we had upped our battery power. So, I was running the washer and the dishwasher, and here is a clip about the washer. Alrighty. So, I know I say so a lot. Even in a grid down situation, you still need to do laundry. You need to keep yourself clean, and your clothes clean too, to keep away from disease. Now, this is not like an apocalyptic grid crash or anything like this. This is a storm took out the electric. Somebody slid into a pole, took out the electric. However you want to do it. So I do not have, my washer is not hot. That plug is not hot. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and try to turn it on. And you'll see nothing's happening. It's dead. So I'm going to pull the cord from it, and I'm going to plug it into an extension cord, and that is plugged into a surge protector that we have plugged into an outlet that we have power to. So this is how I'm going to be able to run my washer. Now, there is no way, our dryer is 220, so there is no way on this God's green earth that I can dry these clothes in a grid down situation without hanging them on a line. And normally I do actually hang most of my clothes up in the hallway to dry on drying racks. So I'm going to go ahead and get these towels and stuff done. And we will have clean towels. They won't be dry, but they'll be clean, so I can hang them up. Or maybe we'll get lucky and the power mysteriously come on and I could throw these in the dryer for a few minutes to get any lint or anything off of them. But hanging them works fine, just as fine too. Well, excuse the pounding if you hear it, but we've got other projects going on here. As you can see, my washer says in, so it is done. The towels and a few things we got needed washed. So I'll have to decide if I'm going to wait or if I'm going to hang them. As I also said, we were going to run the dishwasher, and here is the dishwasher running and getting it done. At that point, like I said, we were running pretty much all on sunshine. So here's a clip about the dishwasher. We are still doing the grid down simulation, and I decided we needed to also run the dishwasher. It has started, And we're going to run that while the sun's out, and just as it would be a grid down simulation or a situation. Because we need our clean dishes, and I don't want to wash them by hand. So we'll see how this does. And it is a very, very bright and sunny day. The dishwasher is done running. Now, I do not use the heat it dry, as you can see. The steam just all rolls out, and the dishes are still wet. I do leave this open and for them to dry. I do this even if we're not in a grid down simulation, because just not using your dryer, your dishwasher to dry your dishes, it does save a lot of energy. So we are about to end this grid down simulation. It's been, very long. We'll figure out exactly when we go back. Okay, so you're probably wondering, well, how much fuel I went through while I was running the generator. Well, I actually made my calculations. We ran the generator about 5.5 hours, and we used about 3 gallons of gasoline. Okay, so that was pretty much our grid down experience. By the time we turned on our breakers, which is, here we go again, I'm going to show you another little clip, actually 2 of them. So it's 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and we are going to flip the breaker. Maybe. Oh, that thing's tight. Maybe not. Okay, so we are getting ready to flip the breaker on and end this grid down simulation. We have lights in the basement again. Woohoo! We'll be back in a bit. Okay, so you saw our clip. Well, my husband actually ended up having to pull the breaker back, but by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not going to lie to you, I was sick of this grid down simulation. And I could not imagine having to do this for weeks on end because something big or major happened. I mean, I live in Pennsylvania. Back during Hurricane Sandy, I think New Jersey was without power for like 2 weeks. At least parts of it was. And it was frustrating, and it was actually a little scary to know that we didn't have the power, you know, that we were no longer hooked up to the grid, and we were literally dependent on our fuel and sunshine and our batteries. So even though we have a great solar system that works most of the time, now that everything has been fixed, it is still scary to think about that if you're just going to be off grid and living on just battery power pretty much and some fuel. Now, we do keep extra, of course, fuel in the house. We keep extra propane, well, not fuel in the house, but fuel stored and propane stored. So we could have actually switched to the generator into a propane mode also. But there you have it. My thoughts, my feelings, what happened during our grid down situation, and we survived it, knowing that we could turn on the power anytime if we needed to. That does definitely take a little bit of pressure off. So now, the solar panels are amazing, and having solar is great because we do sell our energy back to our power company. And we also have it where there is a commodity broker that takes the amount of power that we create with solar and actually sells our power back onto the commodities market, and we actually get paid a little bit for that. It's about 45 megawatts, and megawatts is a lot of watt hours. Okay, so which brings me to, and this is how much we used, our house used in 2022. We used, for this is energy, electricity, solar, everything combined, we used about 14 megawatt hours. However, our sun produced 23.5 megawatt hours, which left us with credits for us to be able to run the electricity. And when the battery was had totally died out, or not totally died out, but we let it run to about 15% in the wintertime to give us credits that we're not paying into the power company. We actually have extra credits, and then in May they cash out our credits and give us a cash back, but it's not technically cash. It's just a amount of credit that we use to pay our $7 and about 50 cents electric bill every month in order for our rent of our power meters. So, well, there you've got pretty much the good, the bad, and ugly about my grid down situation. Yes, we survived it. Yes, we did need a generator, or we would have been very cold. And we also, one thing I want to tell you, we do have our water pump, which is 220. We do have that hooked up to our battery system, so we can definitely get water from our well if there is an actual grid down situation. Okay, and we have our refrigerators and freezers. We have a lot of things that's actually hooked up to the batteries that does draw the current. And we have our pellet stoves hooked up to them also. What we do not have hooked up is our hot water heater or our dryers. And a lot of the bedrooms, the ceiling fans are not hooked up to it. So we're kind of without our ceiling fans. But we are working on getting different items so we actually have some power in the upstairs other than in my daughter's bedroom, and I'm not stringing extension cords throughout the house. So, well, if you like the grid down situation and you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. And Charlie B signing out, and I'll be talking with you soon. Hope to see you in the next video. Oh, leave a comment. Ask questions. I love to hear that. Okay, I love to answer them. So please like, share, and subscribe. I'll be talking with you soon.